The House Rules Committee will come to order. Would the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Schutte.
Here.
Representatives Aragona. Wenzel. Martin. Posthumous. DeBoer.
Here.
Whitwer. Liberati. Herzberg. Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum.
Representative Martin moves to adopt the minutes of the August 21st meeting, and there being no objections, the motion prevails by unanimous consent. I'm using my Lions gavel. We start the season this week, so that's the one time I'm going to use it. But hope everybody's looking forward, like I am, to a great season. So we will now be hearing testimony on House Bill 4160, and Representative Johnsen will be testifying, along with Tim Langholz from NFIB and Mike Witowski from MMA. Gentlemen and Representative, thank you for being here. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of committee. House Bill 4160 is about common sense and accountability in government. From 2019 until 2023, under Public Act 602, Michigan had a clear rule. State agencies could not pile on regulations stricter than federal law unless they could prove there was a clear and convincing need. That proof had to be put on the record in their regulatory impact statements. That safeguard was repealed last term, and since then, agencies have had a blank check to go further than Washington without having to justify it. House Bill 4160 restores the guardrails. It keeps government accountable, stops needless red tape, and ensures Michigan families and businesses aren't burdened with rules beyond what federal law already requires. This bill still gives agencies the ability to act in emergencies or to meet special education needs, but it makes sure that when they want to go further than federal standards, they have to prove why, not just say so. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Tim Langholz from the National Federation of Independent Businesses, and then Mike Witowski from the Michigan Manufacturing Association, who will speak to why this bill matters to job creators and Michigan's economy.
Wireless. Yeah. Thank you so much, Representative Johnsen. Chair Schutte, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to testify this morning. As Representative Johnsen said, my name is Tim Langholz. I'm the Assistant State Director with the National Federation of Independent Business, or NFIB. NFIB represents small and independent businesses in all 50 state capitals in Washington, D.C. We're a national organization with approximately 300,000 members nationwide and over 11,000 members here in Michigan, covering a host of different industries. We're a member-driven organization that sets our policies by a vote of our members. So I am here in support of House Bill 4160, sponsored by Representative Johnsen, which would re-implement a common sense provision ensuring our small businesses are not overburdened by regulation. So I'm going to try and do my best. Representative Johnsen did a great job summarizing everything, but just wanted to say that Michigan businesses are still struggling. There was a 2023 study by the National Association of Manufacturers that showed that compliance costs for federal regulations per employee across all sectors is $12,800 per employee, and that's $14,700 for businesses under 50 employees. The number jumps significantly for small manufacturers who often have a complex web of environmental regulations as well on top of those already stated. They are paying a staggering $50,100 per employee. And this does not include additional state or even local regulations. So what House Bill 4160 does is re-implement a common sense provision in state law that departments must justify why their rules need to be more strict than the federal regulations. Michigan businesses need this type of common sense. They're struggling to adhere to all the rules and regulations, as well as being IT for themselves, HR, work on their business, everything that needs to happen on a daily basis. NFIB does a survey of its members, and unreasonable government regulations is in the top 10 concerns for small businesses. House Bill 4160 is straightforward. It gives a check on bureaucracy, ensuring that they're taking into consideration all the implications that regulations have. And we encourage you to support the bill. And if there are any questions, be happy to answer them after Mike.
How helpful. Okay. Well, Representative, thank you so much for your support of this legislation and your sponsorship. We really appreciate it. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for taking the time today to discuss this critically important legislation. My name is Mike Witkowski. I'm the Director of Environmental and Regulatory Policy for the Michigan Manufacturers Association. On behalf of the MMA, thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony in support of House Bill 4160, which would restore Michigan's no stricter than federal standard for state regulatory policy. Manufacturing employs more than 600,000 Michiganders with average annual wages exceeding $90,000 and generates over 16% of our state's total economic output. It remains the foundation of Michigan's economy and communities across our state, delivering not just direct manufacturing jobs, but also thousands of related service sector and retail jobs as our high wages cycle throughout the local economies. Michigan manufacturers, however, do not just compete locally. We compete nationally and globally against operations in Ohio, Indiana, South Carolina, Mexico, and beyond. Our success depends on the ability to remain cost competitive. The no stricter than federal framework is essential to providing a stable and predictable regulatory framework. Federal standards establish a uniform baseline that applies across every state. When Michigan exceeds those standards, employers face higher costs than competitors across state lines, creating an uneven playing field that undermines investment and threatens Michigan jobs. In 2018, adoption of the no stricter than federal law helped counter Michigan's reputation as a high-cost, heavily regulated state. The framework reassured employers and investors that Michigan values competitiveness while still allowing agencies to exceed federal rules when a clear need is demonstrated. The framework ensured Michigan could safeguard our public health and our environment while remaining competitive for new growth and investment. Repealing the standard in 2023 sent the wrong message by signaling that federal rules are merely a starting point and that Michigan can and will impose additional requirements at any time. This uncertainty undermines business confidence and makes it more difficult for manufacturers to justify investing here rather than in more welcoming states. Investors considering Michigan now face questions about whether regulatory requirements will remain consistent or whether our shifting political priorities will impose additional burdens that cannot be accounted for or planned on. Restoring the no stricter than federal standard through House Bill 4160 is critical to maintaining Michigan's competitiveness on a national and global scale. It will reestablish regulatory certainty, encourage employers, and send a clear signal that Michigan is committed to being a partner in growth, investment, and job creation. A strong and competitive manufacturing sector benefits every single community in our state. As national economic policy pushes to reshore more investment in American manufacturing, restoring this law is an important step to ensure that Michigan remains a place where manufacturing can continue to thrive and grow. MMA asks for your support in this legislation. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Representative. Just a quick question for me. So obviously MMA is involved in trying to attract major manufacturers to come to our state. NFIB you represent the Michigan chapter, but there's a national group of independent businesses. Do policies like having rules that are more strict than federal, does that impair our ability to attract companies to grow here, to build here, and does it negatively impact our small business job creation in the state?
Yeah, sure. I think you hit the nail on the head that further regulation of our small businesses just adds to the headaches that have come down from the energy policies, the rising costs of everything in our state that has happened over the last couple of years. It's taking a significant toll on small businesses. I can think of, even as a personal anecdote, there are a couple of businesses around where I live that have closed their doors, unfortunately, because of high costs. They just can't keep their doors open anymore. So regulations, as a reference a study from the National Association of Manufacturers, that regulations have a cost attached to them. Whether or not it's considered to be small or not, a little here, a little there, it still has a cost attached to them. So it is a huge burden for small business looking to either start or continue.
Thank you.
You know, as I mentioned in my testimony, you know, manufacturing competes on such a large scale outside of our state. And when folks are looking, even people who are already here, looking to expand their businesses, and they see the amount of red tape that is either already in place or potentially coming in place, whether that be through rules or guidance or statute, it suddenly becomes much more welcoming and much more affordable to locate your expansion at another site, another state. And we really need to rein in those costs and make sure that those regulations are stable and justified. Manufacturing is moving towards greener investment, greener technologies, greener systems. It's an efficiency issue, and it's a cost-saving issue at the end of the day. And everybody lives here, everyone wants to protect our environment and our resources. But these things are still limited by available technology and the cost to adapt to them. And so when we put up these unnecessary hurdles, it really says, listen, we don't want your time, we don't want your money, we don't want your jobs here. We'll go look somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Whitwer. Vice Chair Whitwer, sorry.
Okay, I want to know how you determine which rules are more stringent within these federal standards, and then could you also explain to me what the phrase clear and convincing need means within the context of this bill?
So, you know, when this was in place from 2018 to 2023, several of these items came up, whether they were through EGLE or some of the human services departments, and every single time the director came before and said, hey, here's the reason, here's the science, and here's the metrics behind why we need this change. And it was agreed on every single time. And so this just adds that extra step of proof of science, of homework on the part of state agencies to say, yeah, we really do need this, and it's worth the cost to our businesses, to our regulated communities. And so it's adding those provisions instead of putting them on our small businesses, on our independent manufacturers, and putting it on the state because they're the regulators, and they're the ones coming up with these ideas, to put it gently.
And that explains the clear and convincing words that are in the bill?
Yes.
Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's hard to prove a negative, but I can see an example, especially regionally, you mentioned Ohio, Indiana. So if a company is in production of something in another state, would like to move to Michigan for whether it's our workforce or it's our, being closer to supply chain, whatever it happens to be, but if they had to modify a design of their equipment they're already using it in production and modify their chemicals that they're using for their production, all of a sudden they would not even consider Michigan because the cost of changing the design of their production when they can do it either expanding where they're at or go to another regional state would be more cost effective for them. I know it's hard to prove a negative, but that's the type of thing we're looking at.
It's exactly what, thank you. It's exactly what you're saying. You know, you look at, let's move closer to our suppliers, let's move closer to the supply chain, let's cut down on those transportation costs, fuel costs, logistic costs. But suddenly doing that is far outpaced by the cost of complying with additional regulations and testing standards and monitoring and everything else that gets put in place.
Additionally, the delays that some of our regulations cost, that costs money too. Just the delay alone means they'd rather go to Ohio or Indiana instead of Michigan.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Oh, Representative DeBoer.
So many times when we talk about energy and how to do it better, we have to remember that third leg of the stool. It's not just environment and efficiency, it's also economy. And if we're trying to have prosperous businesses, that is in every calculation you make. And I do think we miss the boat when we don't have a budget line item for cost of regulation in a business. Everybody thinks, oh, that's a good idea. Let's just add that on there. And we don't see the cumulative effect of all these little rules that overall are well-intentioned, but the cumulative effect strangles business. And we really don't want to say that in the state of Michigan. We want to be a welcoming place where we embrace business and come alongside. Yes, you don't want to be haphazard and cavalier in the production and all of that. We want to protect people. But we can also get so full of ourselves that these regulations strangle what you're trying to do and deflate the entrepreneurial spirit. We want to do the opposite here. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you, representatives and gentlemen. Appreciate your time. Going to read in some cards here. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Don Crandall from the Home Builders Association of Michigan. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Jacob Manning from the Small Business Association of Michigan. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Michael Van Beek from the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Sonny Koch from Americans for Prosperity. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Alexander Morris from Michigan Bankers Association. Not wishing to speak in opposition to the bill is B. Friedlander from the Attorneys for Animals. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Adam Majestic from the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. And not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Mike Alimo, Michigan Chamber of Commerce. All right. Now we will be taking up House Bill 4279, which we heard testimony on last Rules Committee meeting. There is a substitute for the bill, substitute H3, which removes the rule promulgation portion of the bill. Representative Aragona moves to adopt the H3 substitute. Would the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to adopt the substitute, Chair Schutte,
Yes.
Representatives Aragona. Yes. Wenzel. Yes. Martin. Yes. Posthumous.
Yes.
DeBoer.
Yes.
Whitwer. Liberati. Yes. Hersberg. Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 pass. The motion does prevail.
The substitute is adopted. Representative DeBoer moves to report the bill with recommendation as substitute H3. Would the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Schutte,
Yes.
Representatives Aragona. Yes. Wenzel. Yes. Martin. Yes. Posthumous.
Yes.
DeBoer.
Yes.
Whitwer. Liberati. Hersberg. Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 pass. The motion does prevail.
The bill is reported with recommendation as substitute H3. And we will now be hearing testimony on House Bill 4039. Representative Outman will be testifying. Representative, please come forward and begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I prepared some written testimony that I'll go through, and then I'll open it up to any questions that you might have. That's okay? Well, again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee, for the opportunity to testify on this piece of legislation, House Bill 4039. This is a simple reform designed to lift the burden of overregulation from our state. House Bill 4039 would require state departments and agencies to eliminate 2 outdated regulations for every new one that they create. Right now, Michigan's regulatory structure too often stands in the way of the very people and businesses working to grow our economy and create jobs. By clearing out unnecessary red tape, we could attract more full-time and good-paying jobs and do it without a single dollar in new taxpayer subsidies. Now, we've seen this approach work before. In President Trump's first term, the federal government adopted a similar mandate, and several other states, including Georgia, Missouri, Arizona, and North Carolina, have followed suit. Each has shown that limiting the unchecked growth of regulation fosters innovation and economic development. Now, let me be clear, this bill is not intended to, gut the rules that protect our citizens, like drinking water standards, workplace safety, or essential health safeguards. It's about cutting regulations that are outdated, duplicative, or just overly burdensome. By cleaning up our books and streamlining red tape, we can create a regulatory environment that is cost-effective, predictable, and attractive to outside investment. So in short, House Bill 4039 ensures government is disciplined, accountable, and focused on what truly matters, protecting the public while keeping Michigan open for growth. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to testify, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Representative Outman. Vice Chair Whitwer. Did it right this time.
Been really chatty today. So it seems really arbitrary that you're picking the number 2. And what if there aren't 2 regulations that need to be repealed? Why 2 and why that rule?
Well, tool is just the example that's been used and has proven successful. There are advocates that would argue for more. I thought two would just be a good starting place.
Why any, though? What if there aren't any?
I am quite confident there are many duplicative rules that we can eliminate. Very confident of that.
Representative DeBoer.
It's just kind of like cleaning out your closet or the attic, you know, you kind of go down there and, oh, we got this new thing. Oh, where are we going to put it? Oh, we got like all this
Right.
other stuff. And if you don't have to address it, you won't. You'll just pile that next thing on top of everything else that's already there. And I do think, like you said, it makes people step back and look at the overall picture as they put each new thing into it. And the ultimate value of it is a better run organization and people that realize the customer, there's two customers. They have the regulatory agency has to serve the public in protecting the public with what they do with manufacturing, but at the same time, their customer is the manufacturing world, because if they all leave, we have no state. And so they have to remember that dual customer service. And if we just keep piling on and not respecting them and their expertise and their value, we don't have a good state. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Representative, it's important to keep in mind that these state agencies, they should already be reviewing and evaluating the rules that are in place. What this bill, or the intention of this bill, is to ensure that they do so on a regular basis, that there gives them some proper impetus to actually follow through with that procedure that they should already be practicing. And so that's really the intention of this bill and what I'm trying to accomplish within our executive agencies.
Well, thank you, Representative Outman, and I agree. You look at our state government and our state rulemaking process, forcing our government to do a little Marie Kondo approach to how we're promulgating rules in our state is very effective and very efficient and needed. So, thank you.
Well, thank you, and I thank you for your time. And I'll just say to Vice Chair Whitwer and really all the committee members, I wrote this bill intentionally broad. I was hoping you guys could help me refine and polish it down through the committee process. So if you have any suggestions or concerns, please come to me. I know this isn't perfect, but this is what I'm intending to accomplish, and I would really welcome your guys' support. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Representative. All right, and now we will be hearing testimony on House Bill 4306. Representative Vanderwall will be testifying. And Representative, please begin when you're ready.
Well, good morning. Real quick, 4306 and 7, is that correct? Did you want to do them both at the same time?
Yes, I believe the bill that we have in front of the Rules Committee is 4306, but you can speak to the entire package in your testimony.
Yeah, they're both in the same package. Just
They're
wanted to
tied.
make sure that clarifying that. But thank you again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I truly do appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of these bills today. 4306 and 7 are intended to restore an important tool to those who suffer from epilepsy, their ability to drive. Around 1% of the people in Michigan have epilepsy, or roughly about 108,000 people. According to Michigan law, when a person has an epileptic seizure, they must have their license suspended for 6 months. These bills would codify some current rules into statute that would allow the Secretary of State to utilize a 3-month suspension standard if the individual submits a note from their physician that states their seizures are under control. It also allows a suspension under 3 months if a person submits a doctor's note proving that their seizures were caused through a clear and controllable means or special circumstances like medication, change, or in some cases, people will only have seizures at night. Many of us know someone with epilepsy who has affected For instance, you may not know that my staffer Jordan has epilepsy. And in fact, he didn't get his license when he turned 16 because he had his last seizure 1 month before his birthday. It was his second seizure ever, and once he went on medication, he has never had another seizure. This bill would have allowed him and others like him to get their licenses back and drive themselves to school, to work, wherever they needed to go. And for anyone who is concerned about safety, a recent study has found that there is no difference in the number of accidents that have occurred between those who had their license suspended for 3 months or somebody that had their license suspended for 6 months. These bills just make sense. I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. I hope you truly will consider moving these forward. I think Michigan needs to step forward and work with those that are struggling, and this is another tool to get them back to a normal life. Thank you again for the opportunity, and I'll answer any questions I can.
Thank you. Representative Vanderwall, have you engaged with the Secretary of State's office about the parameters around what the rulemaking would look like?
I've worked with the Secretary of State's office. They, I believe that we can get to the right parameters with this. It's just, it's something that they would like to handle themselves, but it truly has been something that hasn't been handled, and we feel very strongly that legislatively is the direction we need to go.
And in the bill, you pretty tightly define what that rule promulgation would look like and the areas and the criteria that you would evaluate.
Well, right now, it's just who makes those decisions, and that's really where the piece is, we need to find out who inside the department's willing to make those decisions, but ultimately, the experts are the doctors and a physician. If they feel that it's very strongly that this is corrected, why should we as a department or a legislative body not allow the true experts to make those calls?
Thank you. Representative DeBoer?
Yeah, we really love systems because they're so clean and controllable, but people are not systems. And we can, in our well-intentioned world, ruin people's lives on it without needing to, just because we had a system that's ironclad. And so we need to serve people, not just systems. So thank you for presenting this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other, Rep. Liberati?
Thank you, Chair. Are these the same bills that came like 21, 22 through transportation?
Yes, so they were originally introduced by Representative O'Malley.
Where did they end up?
They stalled out, and
Okay, I remember those. I just wondered.
yeah, and that's the reason we brought them back. It actually, I knew nothing about the situation until I had a constituent come into my office and expressed interest of those bills being reintroduced, and through their life experience. And then, of course, through that, I found out that Jordan in my office has actually experienced the same thing. And then, it doesn't affect a lot of people, but it does affect 108,000 people that potentially would lose employment if they can't drive, or other opportunities. So we really felt that it was solid bills, and they really needed to look at, and that's why we're here today.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Representative. Appreciate your testimony.
Well, thank you, and that lovely mallet that's sitting on your desk.
We know you're a Packers fan, but it's okay. Let the record reflect. The committee will take that into advisement. Yeah.
Next week, I'll have a jersey for you to wear.
Oh, yeah. It's a big game on Sunday. Big game on Sunday.
Let's welcome a great football season. But thank you guys for the opportunity to be here today. I really, truly appreciate your time. And in all seriousness, we have a great opportunity to work in the legislative body, but to do good things for a lot of people. So thank you for being
Absolutely. And not wishing to speak in support of the bill is Andrea Schadhofer from the Epilepsy Foundation of Michigan, and not wishing to speak in opposition of the bill is Nick Andrew from the Department of State. And Representative Postumus moves to excuse absent members. There being no objection, the motion prevails by unanimous consent. And there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned. And just for Representative Vanderwall, there you go. So.